development on the digital payments front. The National Payment Corporation of India has clarified that there will be no charges applicable to customers from April 1st for using UPI for transactions over 2,000 rupees. Now, what is this entire story and why was this clarification needed in the first place? This follows reports that a new payment system has been put in place where PPIs, that is prepaid instruments, would also be able to use the UPI platform. And to be able to use that platform, they would be charged at 1.1% for transactions over 2,000 rupees. But here's what's important. Who pays that charge? The merchant pays that charge and not the customers. It remains to be seen whether the merchants will pass it on to the customers. But common customers or common transactions which take place between your bank and another bank via UPI will not be affected. So why is this significant and why have these charges been added? Before we get to that conversation, let me go across to Ankur Mishra, who's explaining who will pay from 1st April and how much.
Yes, after an NPCI proposal on interchange fees to be applicable on prepaid payment instruments, there was a lot of speculation whether or not customers will have to pay any UPI fees, any transaction charge. Now, NPCI has categorically clarified that there is no transaction charge which any customers will have to pay. There is one more important point that this proposal is only applicable for PPI. That means the linking of bank accounts, which normally happens in UPI transactions. In fact, it accounts for 99.9% of transactions. There will be no impact on that. There is no proposal on that front. That means the proposal which has been given by NPCI is only applicable for 0.01% of the transactions. Now, what is this proposal? This proposal states that there will be 1.1% of interchange fees because it's a prepaid instrument that needs to be given by the merchant to the wallet company, that let's say PhonePe or Paytm. So that charge will be borne out by the merchants for making any transactions. Apart from that, there is also a proposal of levying 15 bips charge for loading that wallet. But again, the users will not have to pay anything. All the charges will have to be borne out by the merchant. And all in all, there is no UPI transaction fees which has been planned by NPCI. Therefore, the UPI transactions continues to remain free.
All right, to speak more on this, I'm joined now by Sachin Castellino, Chief Strategy and Transformation Officer at InSolutions Global, and Rohan Lakhayar from Grant Thornton Bharat. Welcome to both of you and thank you so much for speaking with us. Sachin, let me begin with your take. Because there's been so much confusion through the day, I want to understand your perspective. So is it clear that even customers who use PPIs, that means essentially digital wallets where they load up money instead of linking UPI straight to their bank account, even they pay nothing for transactions above 2,000 rupees from the 1st of April?
That is correct. So what happens here is the entire aim or the idea of PPI linking up with UPI was to have a seamless transaction experience. And since UPI has been so phenomenally great in terms of the number of transactions that are going through the country, there had to be a way, in a way, what NPCI is trying to do and what we're trying to achieve here is to ensure that the prepaid ecosystem still remains as is, but they get the advantage of this technology.
Okay, just to also clarify, there's some kind of confusion on whether there will be any charge for users who load their wallet at more than 2,000 rupees at a time, and a very minimal charge of 0.15 or something like that. So does that charge accrue? Sachin, that question for you.
Thank you. So at this point in time, it's a charge that the wallet providers would need to pay. Whether that is passed on to the consumer, at this point in time, there is nothing said on that.
Technically, and let me bring Rohan Lakhayar here. Technically, merchants who choose to accept payments via UPI from wallets or PPIs and have to pay that 1.1%, they can choose to pass it on to the consumer. There's nothing barring them from passing it on.
Typically, if you look at the RBI guidelines, the RBI recommends that none of the charges are allowed to be passed on to the consumers. Now, how it will play out in the market is for the market participants to decide. But generally, the regulator and the supervisor frowns upon such charges to be passed on to the consumer. And 1.1% is also the interchange, which is being given to the issuer. The MDR, which is going to get charged to the customer, to the merchant, may be slightly higher because the acquiring bank will, or the acquiring issuer will, acquiring PPI bank will also want to earn some commission out of the transaction. So it remains to be seen how it will play out. But generally, regulators do not or actively discourage such charges to be passed on to the customers.
They're actively discouraged but not necessarily barred. Now, in your view, Rohan, what is the significance of allowing PPIs on board and also adding these minimal charges? Because so far, the backdrop has been that UPI has remained free. There was a move and a set of recommendations that UPI should be, chargeable to a very small extent, just to make the whole digital payments system, more revenue friendly, to give banks some bang for their buck because the high charges of hosting all of these transactions as well. Do you think this is a first step in that direction? Because the NPCI statement says very clearly that UPI remains free, and for 99% it will remain free.
Yeah, so you have to look at the philosophy behind why UPI payments have been made free. Right? UPI traditionally have been a bank-to-bank transfers, and the underlying principle that the government, or the stance that the government has taken, is that because the balances are residing with the banks, they are able to deploy those balances in a remunerative way. So therefore, they can subsidize the UPI payments. Whereas the payment instruments such as wallet, credit cards, they have inherent charges that are associated to it. If you load a wallet, to a credit card, the issuing the PPI incurs a charge of about 1.5% or 2%. So loading money into PPIs are not free for the PPI issuers, and they have to monetize it in some ways. And that is where NPCI has said that this payment instrument cannot be free because PPI issuers at the outset themselves are incurring a fee. And therefore, when payment to a merchant has to be made, that recovery has to be accrued to the PPI issuer. And that is the underlying philosophy, I believe. And it will change basis the kind of payment instruments that are riding on the UPI rail. And therefore, if you see credit cards will also have an MDR regime, I believe, as we move forward. So it is not only PPIs, but other payment instruments will also get impacted.
Okay. What does this mean, Sachin, for PPIs, for the, MobiQuicks and Paytm wallets and Google Pay wallets, etc. of the world? Do they become less attractive now? Anyway, they had a shrinking pie because UPI was like the big elephant in the room, sweeping away all of the digital transactions or a bulk of them.
So in this scenario, I think it's now more of an understanding of what use cases do they want to potentially solve. Yes, we have seen UPI solve some of the use cases that they were predominantly in, but what I can see, or what I feel from looking at the market when we look at other fintechs, there are use cases that they have attempted to solve using the PPI wallet. The way PPI was thought of earlier versus the way PPI is being used today, there is a difference in the way fintechs are thinking about it. So it just depends on how they want to innovate and work through in this particular landscape.
Okay, Sachin, that question to you about whether you think it's a first step to making UPI payable to some extent, or do you think the sort of push to keep it free will continue?
This depends on how the sustainability of the entire ecosystem continues to stay. At this point in time, it seems like these various payment channels and the way the regulator is looking at it and way NPCI is looking at it is to ride on the success of UPI, but make it ubiquitous for all payment channels so that it's easier for consumers. If we see other modes also getting charged or not charged at this point in time, I think only time will tell, and this will require inputs from all industry ecosystem, all industry stakeholders before anything moves forward.
Absolutely. Well, so nothing really changes for you from April 1st if you're one of the 99.9% users of UPI who have connected the platform directly to your bank account and are paying directly to someone else's bank account using UPI. There will be a slight charge if you're using a PPI or a mobile wallet or a digital wallet, which actually now allows you to use UPI unlike the earlier situation, but that charge is borne by the merchant. So nothing for you to worry as of now. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us today and explaining that issue that everyone's been wondering about.